Path of Exile 3.24 Necropolis League has been announced, patch notes are here, my friends, and it's time for us to talk about league status. What am I going to be considering, and which of my favorite league status, unfortunately, are not status anymore. So stick around, let's talk about this. We'll start very quickly with overview of the most impactful changes, I think, in my humble opinion, and then I'll show you which builds I'm going to be playing potentially, and maybe you will want to consider doing that as well. While you're here, while I have your attention, maybe give me a quick like if you're interested in these topics, and I'll be, obviously, as the league rolls out, talking to you a lot more about Path of Exile over the next few weeks. So let's jump straight into the key changes, my friends. Let's take a look at things that you may have missed, and it is such things that you think they're insignificant, but they're very significant to the gameplay. Instant skills can no longer be left click. This is, my friends, massive. This is a massive thing to consider, not to dismiss. Things like Convocation for summoner builds, when we pull our minions with us as we run along the maps. On slow minions such as Sentinel of Radiance, this is critical to convocate and pull your minions with you. Things like Vortex for things like cold dot builds. Vortex was automatically dropped under your feet. Things like, I don't know, even Steel Skin. If you prefer to constantly run with a Steel Skin around you, we often bind it on the left mouse click so that it's always on us. But they're increasing effectiveness a little bit for traps, so pay attention to this. This is a smaller thing, but I'm gonna mark it as a point number 2 of interest to you and to me. Then I'm going to continue going down here and show you we have the very popular build of 3.23 Affliction League was Penance Brand of Penance Brand of Dissipation. Well, they're nerfing it. They saw that we have been playing it a bit too much, and this is annoying because they're almost forcing us to rotate from these builds, from the fun builds, and they are forcing us to be more inventive. Basically, they're nerfing Penance Brand of Dissipation, so it's going to be activating slower, and it's going to have a lesser of an effectiveness of added damage. And the base damage as well, base physical damage at level 1 versus others is also a bit lower. So they are lowering that. I don't play Penance Brand of Dissipation. You might so consider that these are non-starters anymore, okay? We have Summon Raging Spirit. You know how much I love Summon Raging Spirit, and that's where we come closer to my favorite summoner builds. So Raging Spirit's melee attack no longer naturally gains 0 to 38% more damage as it levels up, as the gem levels. Maybe not a very critical change, but still not a very good sign. Golems, interestingly enough, they are buffing golems a tiny bit, generally. So if you are a golem-based Golemancer, perhaps maybe an Archwitch Elementalist Golemancer, that is something to consider, but again, it maybe is not a complete weather maker type of stuff. It's not that massive of a change, but it is something for us to pay attention to. And then we are going to take a look at the ascendancy changes, where the real doozy is, my friends. Take a look at this. First of all, summoned Sentinels of Radiance. You know how much I love Holy Summoner builds. I have published a few Holy Summoner builds. I will show you one in a second. So it's absolutely destroyed. So basically, the summoned Sentinels of Radiance now will be doing only 20% of its maximum life per second to the enemies in a smaller radius, slightly smaller radius, and before it used to have a little bit of a larger radius and 30% of life. Is it a complete destruction of this skill? Perhaps not, but it's definitely a substantial nerf, especially if you consider that instant skills such as the Convocation can no longer be bound to the left click of the mouse, and you cannot just nicely, smoothly walk around with a very slow Sentinel of Radiance who gets pulled along and kills everything along the way. Now, Mindless Aggression used to be a fantastic ascendancy skill for Necromancer Witch, and it used to give the minions increased movement speed, increased attack speed, increased cast speed. It was amazing, and also it was allowing the minions to deal 30% increased damage. Well, no longer, my friends, no longer. Instead, it now causes them to deal like a PC 10% of more damage and have PC 20% more maximum life. That's like arguably not even worth taking anymore. I don't know. I'm so disappointed at this change. It's like a flat-out nerf. No matter what you say to me, like, Gyro, you're not a simmer, that's why you don't understand the high PhD requiring mathematics of this. There is no freaking complex mathematics of this freaking change. This is a horrible nerf, my friends. Now, you will ask me, Gyro, so what are we going to be playing then? Well, let me take a look, show you. League hasn't started yet, obviously, it's speculation. Everything is subject to change. Check the links, come back to the channel, check the links, and check what I publish after the league starts. But at the moment, here's what I'm thinking. Here is my short-listed collection of something that I might be considering, and let me tell you why. So first of all, when you see something like Palsteron Gyro, it means basically that I have changed the build that was originally published by Palsteron. I've been changing it not because I think I know better than people like Palsteron, but I've been changing the builds to make them a lot more affordable for casuals, basically simplifying them, even at some loss of utility, some loss of DPS damage, but at the same time it works for me. So Caustic Arrow Ballistas. Caustic Arrow Ballistas is a great build, is a very accessible build. Palsteron has done a tremendous job as he always does in terms of detailing this build for us. So except he's not particularly well known for putting great notes. He's not Big Ducks or someone like that. But at the same time, the build itself is a rather thought through, rather decent build. And the Caustic Arrow Ballistas, I personally think that the totems are not nerfed in patch 3.24 Necropolis League, by the looks of it. And ballistas are outsourcing the damage dealing component to the ballistas. Yeah, you don't need to work as hard as a player. I personally, I'm not saying it's the best build, but I'm saying it's worth your attention. It will be worth my attention because it doesn't require as much investment and as much clicking around and danger to yourself as a character versus outsourcing it to ballistas and letting them kill everything. So that's the first build I'm still shortlisting and considering. There is another rather interesting build that I'm not going to start with, but I'm probably going to follow up with pretty quickly. It's also based on Palsteron's Shockwave Slayer. Shockwave, again, I have not seen anything, at least so far, in the... so this is with Gyro's modifications, you can see here. This is an interesting build that I saw from Palsteron. Again, because it's reliant on cluster jewels, I think it might become a little bit more expensive, so it may not be per se a league starter like day one kind of thing, but it might be a tiny bit later down the track, sort of like a week or two into the league. It's interesting for me. So we are triggering the shockwave effect here with Static Strike. I have not mastered this by no means, this build, but it's on my radar. I think this might need to be on your radar, and obviously you can check out the description of this video or talk to me in the comments down below and ask for any of these builds. I'll put in the POBs for you in the description if there is interest. If there is no interest, well, I'm also not very motivated. You know how it works, right? Now, basic Toxic Rain. Toxic Rain, you basically can very rarely go wrong with. Basic Toxic Rain, I don't even know who is the author of this originally. It was not my original build, it's a derived, already built and reworked build, but Toxic Rain is always a good league starter. It's always a good league starter, and in this case it looks like Grinding Gear Games haven't messed up, and I'm gonna use such strong terminology here, they haven't messed up Toxic Rain enough for me to discard it. So I think it actually probably will work, offer us a lot of damage over time, offer us a lot of simplicity of the build itself. It will be supported by ballistas, it will be just our usual Toxic Rain build. I've published videos, other creators published videos, there is a ton of them. Take a look at just how many different nodes there are, and yes, I can give you the POB and check my channel for other builds. I have covered Toxic Rain many times, happy to do it again. But Toxic Rain remains here a very much high-level thing that we can do. Now, Big Ducks is one of my other favorite content creators in Path of Exile build community. Big Ducks, SRS Guardian. Listen, SRS Guardian is here for honorable mention because we started talking about the nerfs to Sentinel of Radiance. SRS Guardians, generally, whether they're from Big Ducks, whether they're from Subtractum, you can see there are a few. Because I'm so interested, I'm always looking for the best gems in each one of the builds of different creators, right? There is my own Holy Summoner, Sentinel of Radiance. There are three Holy Summoner based builds around here. And I can tell you all of them are subject to seeing how the league launches, but I'm definitely not starting with them because of the changes I've just described to you. No instant cast on left click, and Sentinel of Radiance itself as a centerpiece of all of these builds is nerfed, in addition to some slightly harder to quantify nerfs to things like SRS. So, unfortunately it's not. Zizaran posted last league an interesting build, Caustic Arrow of Poison. Of course, it is reliant very much so on the transfigured gem, Caustic Arrow of Poison, that you may or may not have, so it will not be your day one league starter, but you can start with a normal Caustic Arrow. You don't need Caustic Arrow of Poison to make this work. So it's an interesting Pathfinder build that I think is also going to be, and is very, very, in my mind, it's the top 3, probably top 3 that I'm right now considering to start the league with. Enough said about that. Gyro's Arc Witch updated. This is a build that I've shared with you not long ago. If you don't mind self-cast, if you don't mind the playstyle of a glass cannon, and if you are not planning to kill Cyrus or uber pinnacle bosses with this build, because admittedly it would be extremely hard. I have not shock-proofed and bullet-proofed this build enough to claim that it's capable of doing that. However, what it's capable of doing is it's capable of clearing maps very fast, offering you a very fast, very rewarding, fun gameplay, and farm currency, basically become richer at the start of the league and start kind of with a bang. Go, into the early towards mid-tier maps without any issues whatsoever, and with extra investment of time and in-game currency you can push even higher. I've had people in my community who used my builds and done better than I have with them. Really great people. So this remains one of my potential league starters for you to consider. I probably won't, simply because I just played it. That's why I probably will not go into Necropolis with it, but you might want to consider that. We already spoke about my sad story of Sentinel of Radiance. Once again, rest in peace, RIP, my friend. Now, another creator, Phoenix, has posted an interesting build of a Shockwave Auto Bomber, which I have reservations on, but I decided not to hide it from you, so that you know this is like a preview of content on my channel for Necropolis League. This is something that I am considering to dive further into and discuss with you, my friends. And I know I mentioned to you how I see that traps and potentially mines might be making a resurgence this league, and I think that this is probably a safe prediction, because I have always enjoyed traps and mines gameplay. I had Glacial Cascade miner build in the past, and even the physical trap builds such as Seismic Trap I have really enjoyed in the past. So I think, I'm not showing them to you here because they are not imported into this instance of POB, but these are other builds that I'm potentially going to bring to you this league, especially if there is interest. Now, over to you, my friends. First of all, I hope this helped. If it did, please give me a like. Don't leave without giving me a like, because there are only so many few things you can do to tell me that you want more of this content. So do it, please. And secondly, tell me in the comments down below, if you're capable of typing, if you're not 3 years old, what are you starting the league with? First of all, these changes that I spotted, did they resonate with you? Did they upset you? Did you rejoice for any reason whatsoever? Did I miss something? It's very possible. But let's talk about what you are starting the league with. These are my kind of neat-in plans, but I always welcome opinions in my community, because we always wake up a bit when the new league starts. That's kind of completely normal in Path of Exile. So I'll talk to you next time. Great times to come. It's always fun when the league starts, and hopefully more cool builds emerge over time. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next week.